Hello, educators. My name is Judi Meredith, and I am a licensed professional counselor and an online coach. I host a group for women who have been in toxic relationships and at one time or another in their lives and have been devalued as a result of those relationships. And I work with them to get their value going again and get self-love flowing and to get them to a place where they live their best life. So last week in the group that I host on Facebook, I did a free workshop, and one of my topics was boundaries. In fact, the title of the workshop was You Suck at Boundaries, okay? And I talked about boundaries with everybody, and the reason for that is because as women and busy people, I mean, even if you're not a woman who has been affected by toxic relationships, but you know, I know as an educator you're super busy, and boundaries sometimes fall by the wayside. So everybody can use a good a primer or an update to boundary setting. So that's going to be my topic for tonight. And so, okay, so how do I know that people suck at boundaries? Mostly because that is the number one complaint of many of the women who I've seen over the years, many of my clients, that I just can't set boundaries. I'm not good with them, or I set a boundary and then I let it go and I don't stick to it, and on and on. So the boundary situation is dire, especially for women. And I could relate because I grew up in an alcoholic family of origin. And believe me, we did not learn about boundaries or anything else related to our well-being in that household. So I had to learn later on in life, just like many other women have had to do. So I can relate. So boundaries, what are they? They are something that frees you from being weighed down so that you have more room in your life for your own priority, whatever that may be. You probably have a list of priorities. I should probably make that plural. But boundaries keep us safe also in sensitive situations. Say you're single and you're in the dating field, boundaries are a must. If you're going through a divorce, boundaries are a must. You're raising a teen, again, you really have to know how to set these boundaries. But think about what your life would be like if you really truly had more room in it for the things that you wanted to do and that were important to you. It would be awesome, right? So what are boundaries? Boundaries are invisible fences that you put up to protect your time, your energy, your personal space, inner peace, and everything else that is uniquely yours. They signify where you end and another person begins, which is highly important in safeguarding your relationships against codependent dynamics. So having a clean line there where you know what belongs to you in terms of responsibility and what belongs to that other person in terms of responsibility is so important to avoid stepping over that line and doing something for somebody else that really isn't yours to do. And that's easy for educators because I know. I am, in addition to being a therapist and a coach, I have been an educator in several different universities. So it's real easy to just want to get in there and do things for people. It's not a good thing. So I want to really bust a myth about boundaries. And that is this. People hold the belief that if I set boundaries, I'm going to damage my relationships. They really believe that. They're afraid of boundaries. They think they're going to hurt somebody or cause a conflict or someone's going to get angry with them. Actually, the better the boundaries, the healthier the relationship. Boundaries will actually strengthen your relationship because they will give your relationship structure. Each person then will know what the other one needs and wants in that relationship in order to be a happy camper in that relationship. So you avoid, things are spelled out up front, and you avoid stepping on each other in ways that can cause conflict. So boundaries actually reduce conflict. So why do so many people suck at them, and why don't we set them as a matter of course? And why aren't we comfortable with them? Why aren't we comfortable hearing them from other people? Mostly I have found, or at least the people who have come to me, my clients, that I found that they didn't learn them in their families of origin. So they didn't get the support they needed to learn about boundaries, to set boundaries. And if you have ever been in toxic relationships or unhealthy families of origin or abusive situations, or even maybe there was abuse in your family, your boundaries were violated. And when that happens, you're taught by example that you don't have boundaries and that you're not entitled to them. So you may have a lot to overcome to start setting them. But believe me, any work that you do toward this end is going to be so worth it in giving your life peace and structure and cutting out a whole lot of chaos that could be going on. So early programming can have a huge impact on our ability to set boundaries. Okay, when parents don't teach boundaries to their kids, or worse yet, cross their boundaries like we talked about, they're sending the kids out defenseless into the world into a world that has a lot of evil and disappointment and scary stuff going on in it. So to survive, kids need to have the power to say no and to disagree with adults. And so do we. So do us adults who didn't get to learn this stuff in our childhoods. They need to be able to tell adults to stop, voice when they feel something is wrong, and protect their bodies and their space. So if you weren't a child who learned that, you are, likely to be a compliant person. And often compliant people take on too much in their life as well. So boundary setting is you're at a deficit in your life, and your life will reflect that, and how you feel will reflect that. There's a lot of depression and anxiety, and a lot of other bad things that can come from not having a good handle on and a good command of being able to protect our own space. So why are we not setting them if they're so awesome? We're not setting them, gets down to one word. We're not setting them because of fear, okay? We have fear of hurting another person's feelings, feeling rejected by somebody, abandoned. We're worried about disconnecting from our loved ones. Like, what are they going to think of this? How is this going to affect our relationship? Feels a little insecure type of thing. Sometimes a fear of being retaliated against or some form of punishment, especially if you have to set a limit on the job. Or if you do happen to be in a toxic relationship, that can be something that happens a lot. Fear of getting into a conflict, or fear of being seen as selfish. So that's brainwashing stuff. I've got another presentation for that. So healthy selfishness is actually a very, very, very good thing. So compliant people take on too much in life, set too few boundaries because of fear. And that's about the bottom line, just because of our fear. If you're having those fears and these are an issue and this is resonating with you, it's a sign that you're not putting your own life first and foremost, which is your main responsibility and your duty. So reminding yourself of that and acting on that a little bit at a time is super, super important. So if you guys wouldn't mind, everybody who's on here, I just want to welcome everybody who's on here. People kind of started showing up after I was talking. Type into the comments right now, what is your biggest fear or your biggest challenge around setting boundaries, if you have one? If you don't have one, type that in too. Let's take a minute to type that in. What is your biggest fear or challenge? And while you're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that you can do to make boundary setting easier. So you can start to practice it and get good at this skill. It'll change how you see yourself and how you see others and how you view your world. It'll change how effective you are at whatever it is that you do. Okay, Brooke. Hi, Brooke. I'm afraid of upsetting people. Absolutely. Anna says, others not respecting my boundaries. Yeah, it's hard. Like, what do you do, really, when they say no to your boundary? I'm not going to respect that. These are good questions. And yeah, Brooke, having a fear of upsetting people, huge. We are pack animals, and we need to belong to that pack, and we are hardwired in our reptilian brains to get along and to collaborate and to not upset the apple cart. So getting used to this at first can be a little bit difficult. Jen says, the kickback of others and having to fight to keep my bound. Ugh, exhausting. I totally get it. And here's the rub. Once we do set a boundary, we can't take care of the other person with regard to that boundary. We can set it and then let them deal with it. And sometimes there's a little lag time there where you don't know how this is all going to play out. So it can be unnerving. It can be. But I'm going to speak to all of these things and give you some ideas of how and how to deal with those things. Okay. Making boundary setting easier. First thing you want to do is anticipate that you are going to have anxiety around setting a boundary. You're going to have what I call anticipatory anxiety, okay? And you're going to feel that in your body and your mind and your soul, and you're going to have to get yourself through it and still manage to set that boundary. So remind yourself, first of all, yes, this is difficult. Yes, I will be there for you, which is a self-compassion message. I've got your back. Even if you have to speak to yourself in the mirror, I'm here for you. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to get through this. Remind yourself that this anxiety is temporary, and then do something to dispel the energy and the anxiety from your body. For myself, I really like body movement of some kind. If I'm really anxious or I'm facing something really big, then I'm like, oh, this is going to be unnerving. I'm lacing up tennis shoes because I'm going to go hit the pavement and take a walk around. And you may do yoga or just, move in place, dance to some music, put something on. But every time we have anxiety and we do something physical, we dispel that energy. So do something physical. Next, I want you to stay focused on your goal. What are you going to achieve when you set this boundary? What are you going to get out of it? You need to remind yourself of the end game and why it's important to you. Then you process the conversation that you want to have with the individual that you need to set the boundary with out loud. So you're talking out loud. You can set your dog on the couch or your cat and pretend that's the person and speak to them. You can speak in the mirror. What this exercise will do is get you more clarity about what you're going to say and why you want to set this boundary, and it'll also have you committing to your boundary. And then some breathing exercises. Do some breathing exercises lastly, okay? So while I'm talking, put into the comments, what do you normally do to chase away anxiety? Do you have something that you regularly do to get rid of anxiety? That's healthy. That's healthy. Jen says, the kickback of others and having to fight. Okay, we read that one. Marianne says, hurting people's feelings and relationships. Absolutely. Hurting people's feelings is huge. Women do not want to do that. I don't want to stereotype, but men have a little bit easier time of just assuming that they're entitled to certain space and not worrying so much about how other people are going to take it when they come out with their boundary and say, yeah, I don't want to do that. So Yeah, so we're a little bit at a disadvantage there. Rose says she exercises every day. That's excellent, because when you're doing it every day, you're dispelling all kinds of anxiety. Read a book. Love it. Love it. I love books. I am a book hound, and I still love the hard copy. So I'm waiting for a really good mystery from the library right now. Anna says, I try talking about and acknowledging my anxiety. Perfect. If you have a trusted other person in your life and you can just give them a quick call or text and say, I'm feeling anxious. I have to say no to somebody for something, or I have to address something with someone and I'm just feeling anxious. Can I talk to you about it? Awesome. Awesome ideas. Okay. Next, I want to talk about using a prepared script. Sometimes when you're going to set a boundary, it's very helpful to use a prepared script for it. So when it comes time to set the boundary, you can use some phrases to start things up with. For example, you could say, I need to bring something to your attention today. Or, I have a request I want to make of you. Or, let me check my calendar and I'll get back to you on that. Or, I want to revisit something that happened between the two of us last week. When would be a good time to talk about that? So those are some ideas of scripts. You can also just say, no, thank you. I don't think that's going to work for me right now. Or that's not going to work for me. You can say, I'll have to consider that and get back to you. And I need time to think that over. So yeah, Anna, it is. Anna says, use a prepared script. Great idea. Yeah, at least to get you started, just say, hey, something's been on my mind and I need to have a conversation about it. And then you can kind of freestyle it from there. But yeah, using a script is really important. So can anybody guess and type into the comments, what is the most important relationship that we need to set boundaries in? The most important relationship we need to set boundaries in. Can anybody guess what that is? I'll give you another minute. Maybe I should go ahead and tell you the most important relationship we need to set boundaries in is the relationship we have with ourselves. So once we get good at that and we start to kind of set, good job, Rose came up with it. Yourself, yes. Honoring myself and my own boundaries. Absolutely, Anna. That is the most important one. Whatever we want to do, Marianne has it too, ourselves. Good job. Yep, you got it, Brooke. She says, I'm stumped. Yourself, yeah. It is yourself. It absolutely is. Anything that we want to become good at in a relationship with somebody else, we first have to do for ourselves. We first have to do it for ourselves. So even loving other people, we still have to do that for ourselves first. Boundaries, it's no different. So setting some limits with the self and enforcing them will help you to get these boundaries set with the people around you, okay? And, they can be set in love. You can always do it that way too. Okay, let's see. Where am I here in my presentation? Okay, and I know that the title of this presentation is You Suck at Boundaries, but I just want to point out that sometimes it's not you who's sucking at boundaries. Sometimes it's other people in your life and people around you who suck at boundaries. They are not respecting your boundaries or the obvious boundaries that are unspoken that everybody's entitled to. And so spotting these boundary busters is very important, because there are people who will never respect your boundaries, and you need to be able to spot those people and make good decisions about whether or not they need to be in your life or how they can be in your life. And that's definitely a topic of another presentation for sure. But I will tell you that, you know, getting back to the population of women who I help, who haven't been trained, so to speak, in early programming about how to own your own power, or women who've been in these toxic relationships, sometimes don't always recognize when their own boundaries have been crossed. So I'm going to recommend that you use your body as feedback about what's happening in your world and your relationships around you. I'm going to give you some examples of what you're going to feel, and you'll have your own because you know yourself. Sometimes we'll feel a constriction like in our chest, and we'll have like a rapid heartbeat. Our breath gets shorter. We freeze up. There can be headaches or pain in other parts of your body. You can kind of notice that you've got an instant fatigue. You're just like, oh, I'm so tired suddenly. And anxiety can go up again. So those are some like barometers, like using your body as a barometer to detect when somebody's stepping over a boundary. Yeah, Mallory is saying, yes, I have felt that. Absolutely. Me too. Sometimes when you feel these things, you're not going to be ready to act on it right away. That's okay. Just have the feeling, notice it, be aware of it, and give yourself some time to think about, hey, what happened there with that person, with that exchange? And is there something that I need to address here? And if there is, you go back to your script, okay? We're also going to feel it in the emotions and the feels. So here's what you might feel when your boundaries are being busted. You might have some dread, some resentment, anger bubbling up, frustration, and you may just have a desire to run, just to flee, to get the heck out of there. So those are some things that your emotions are going to tell you. And again, you may have these feelings. Your first job is to be aware of them. You can always revisit what to do about them later. The thing you don't want to do is, after you calm down or the feeling goes away, the thing you don't want to do is to do nothing about it. You still want to sit back and analyze, because it's probably a great opportunity to practice your boundary setting. So get used to tuning into your body and your emotions, okay? So I'm going to be speaking again on Thursday, and between now and then, I just want to kind of give you an activity. I want you to consider one boundary that you need to set and make a plan for it. Put your boundary and your action plan in the feed for this live video, okay? And I will address each one of those when we get back, even though I will be on another topic. And I also have some boundary handouts that you might like to have. So you can get those by private messaging me. You are welcome to also join my group on Facebook. It's a free group for women, and it's called Powerful, Prosperous Women. My personal page on Facebook is Judi, Judi, Ruth, Meredith. So, yeah, I will. Oh, okay. Mallory, how should I save my information? Should I just put it into the comments? I can do that, I guess. And then for, whoever joins my group, I will definitely get this bonus content out to you. And it's, I do have a whole page of scripts that you can use, and you can, help to process and get yourself brainstorming to think of your own scripts. I have, I have the whole list. Okay, I will, Mallory. I'll put it in the comments. Thank you. I have a whole list of what we went through, of how to prepare to set this boundary. And there's one other thing, and I can't remember what it is, but it's helpful. So I know that. So in closing, I just want to say, thank you, Mallory, it is a fun group. It is an amazing group. I've got a lot of wonderful women in it. And I'm really excited to be teaching women and working with women and supporting them into becoming, like I like to call, stepping into their greatness with, women who have been affected by toxic relationships, don't have the skills, abilities, and benefits, and, the personal power. They're not in touch with that power to be able to create the life that they want. So my goal is to reunite them with their personal power so that they can blast forward in a life that they are super excited about, and never, 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 never get into this pattern again of being in a toxic relationship. So that's my goal. And I'm going to have a new topic for you, I think on Thursday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? I'm coming back on. I know that. It's in my calendar. So Mallory knows when that is, and I'm sure they'll post it. She'll post it in the group. But I'm just want to say thank you for everybody for showing up, and have a lovely Monday night. And I hope you took something away. And I look forward to your PMs and your requests to join my group. And I'll see you all back here then. Bye.